Any area that is not clear, please. Issue that we consider very pertinent to the development of our nation. And we also intend to draw the attention of the government to what ought to be the sustenance of a legacy of a Western region in power that is seemingly being challenged by the new reality. What I mean by that is that Awolowo is popular for free education in Western Nigeria. President Olusegun Obasanjo is very popular with the universal basic education that he came up with. When President Tinubu won the election, got inaugurated, we were expecting another rejuvenation of access to qualitative and seemingly free education under his watch, because it is historic and it is clear that this is what they cherish most, formal education. But surprisingly, there is a policy of government, though we want to believe was not targeting the educational sector, but out of lump sumness, just lumping up everything, one of the most critical commissions that makes available formal education accessible to citizens has been a little bit challenged. What this implies is that the decision of government to defund, stop funding, discontinue funding, whichever phrase you choose to use, from 2024, as indicated from the Budget Office, affects one of the key agencies of government that has been used over a period of time to allow people who were not privileged to have formal education in their childhood to access education. I am of the belief, or as a civil society, we are of the belief that even the National Open University itself was established to support the programs of the agency of government for mass and adult education that has produced a lot of persons that have come through the primary and secondary structure. And today, the National Open University has become one of the success stories of our educational system. It is in the light of this and our firm commitment to defending the continuous access to education by all Nigerians, irrespective of gender, age, or any other variable being considered, that we are calling on the government through this medium to reconsider the lumping of all agencies that has anything to do with education among those that are to be affected by this policy. We applaud the government for deciding to stop funding professional bodies. We applaud the government for deciding to put agencies and CEOs of agencies on their toe, to take responsibility for accepting responsibility. Because heading an agency is a responsibility. If you accept such agency leadership, you must take responsibility and you must deliver in terms of running the agency effectively and efficiently. And we think that this policy is going to help in that direction. However, at this point of our history, education should not be included in such reality. It is in the light of that that the Civil Society Coalition for Transparency and Good Governance called on this World Press Conference to address the plan by the federal government of Nigeria to defund adult and mass literacy education in the country. Recently, the federal government announced its approval for the discontinuation of budgetary allocation to professional bodies and councils effective from 2024. The government's position was made public by the Director General Budget Office of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Ben Akabueze. In the letter issued to head of affected organizations and institutions from the Office of the Director General, dated 26th June 2023, and titled Discontinuation of Funding of Professional Bodies and Councils from 2024 Budget in line with decisions of the Presidential Committee on Salaries. The government said, effective from the said date, the affected institutions would be regarded as self-funding and become fully responsible for their personnel, overhead, and capital expenditures. We applaud that significantly. Why applauding the federal government for its decision to defund professional bodies and revenue-generating councils, the coalition of civil society organizations is shocked and worried at the inclusion of agencies with a mandate to provide mass literacy, adult and non-formal education on the list of agencies to be defunded from 2024. We consider it as a mistake of immense proportion. As a result of the work of this, we are devoting this event, this press conference today, to call for more funding instead of removing the funding itself to help eradicate illiteracy and to counter the scourge of making our mothers uninformed sufficiently to parent our children. With a high number of illiteracy adult population in Nigeria, it is an anti-people policy for the federal government to defund any commission which performs one of the most important mandates among government institutions via eradicating illiteracy in our country. One of such agencies mistakenly included in the list is the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education. Listed among the over 25 affected institutions is a body referred to as the National Literacy Council, which is actually non-existent. We consider it a mistake because an agency that does not exist is also listed, and we consider it a mistake for listing this particular agency in question. The body established by law to oversee the affairs of mass literacy in Nigeria is called the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education, established by Decree 17 of 25th June 1990, now Acts 18 of 2004, which with the mandate to eradicating illiteracy in Nigeria within the shortest period of time. It is true that we are yet to eradicate this illiteracy from our system, but it is also true that the agency has been in the forefront in advocating for this. The National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education is currently funded largely through subventions from the federal government, which is grossly inadequate to meet the requirement of adult and non-formal education in Nigeria. To mitigate this inadequacy, the National Council for Education in 2017 funded largely through the subvention from the federal government, which is grossly inadequate to meet the need of adult and non-formal education in the country. Hence, the National Council on Education in 2017 mandated the federal government to, without prejudice to the other subsector of the economy, allocate at least 2% of its consolidated revenue to the sector, rather than comply with this provision, the federal government is mistakenly listing the same agency among those to be defunding. SARS and MAS, gentlemen of the press, sometimes as citizens of our country, we must bear in mind that government may come up with an idea that may not be as effective or as efficient that it thought. It is our duty to call its attention. Very recently, the presidency had said that as part of the fuel subsidy mitigation, they will be paying 8,000 to household. But when the response of the Nigerian people came up, like this kind of response we're making now, the government intelligently withdrew it and has put it in a more useful venture that we hope will give us a more reasonable palliative. It is in the spirit of that and our belief that we have a listening president, that we are drawing his attention to this subject matter. We therefore call on the government, the federal government, in our opinion, inadvertently list some of the agencies and commission, including the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education, as a fund-generating agency that will be denied government funding from 2024. It is ill-conceived because mass literacy is a make-up. That is why in 2017, the National Council for Education has suggested that additional 2% from consolidated fund should go into such venture. We think that listing her among agencies that are operating, it's done in error. We pray, because of the importance of literacy to national development, the National Council for Education, as I have stated, without prejudice, have made it very clear. We hereby pray and respectfully request that Mr. President, through the capacity he has, should direct the Minister of Education, the Budget Office, and all other agencies concerned that, as a matter of urgency, and because of the national importance, redirect the appropriate authorities, namely the Director General of Budget Office, the Accountant General of the Federation, the Presidential Committee on Salaries, and other related agencies to sustain the continuation of the budgetary provision or allocation to all non-revenue generating agencies and commission established by acts of Parliament, including the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education, as these bodies perform the important task of eliminating illiteracy in our country. Also, please, Mr. President, kindly consider the improvement of budgetary allocation to the Commission and all other agencies of government that deals with issues relating to literacy. We have made a lot of research and a lot of findings within this subject of interest. But these are the key issues. The key issues is, number one, this administration should sustain their Awolowo philosophy of education, of making education available to the people and making it massively available to the people, replicated by Obasanjo in the form of UBEC. This government should continue the funding of agencies of government such as the Adult and Mass Literacy Commission. Two, we believe that listing of the adult and mass literacy education was in error, and this error should be corrected. Then lastly, we therefore we call on you, gentlemen of the press, to, as a matter of contribution to the survival of education and access to education, to, outside this, our press conference, also help in reaching out with documentaries and other informations that will push the government to acknowledging the fact that mass literacy and adult education is something that should be funded. Thank you as we await your questions. Thank you. Grant shows that have not benefited from formal education because we are still responsible for the highest number of children, out of school children in Africa and maybe in the world. I don't want to stretch it too far. If we are responsible for the highest number of children out of school, where is the other place that we can get them educated? It's through the mass literacy and non-formal adult education. If you miss it at childhood. So in going with the population, the statistics of the number of out-of-school children in our country, we can, on good authority said that with the number of children of out of school, projecting and multiplying over a period of, say, 2 decades, that's 20 years period, we can comfortably say that we have over 62 million persons that stands to benefit from mass literacy and non-formal education. Over 62 million Nigerians. If we have per decade 11 to 12,000 persons that did not go to school, you put another decade, if you put 2 decades, that makes you an adult already, you're 18. So if you multiply the number, it's self-explanatory. We cannot have less than 62 million persons that will be affected by this policy. We will not fail to hit to this, our call, because he's a Democrat and is a product of struggle. He was a key member in NADECO and he understands a divergent opinion in analyzing national issues. That is why I'm confident that he will not fail to hit to this call. However, if misadvised, we will continue to remind him that the responsibility of mass literacy and adult education is not just a right, is not a privilege, but a right. But we are confident that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will hit to this call.
The organization you are talking about does not generate any revenue.
In non-formal adult literacy are the poor of the poorest. And because they are the poor of the poorest who could not afford education at the right age, and now most likely still at that level, so the stipends that they are required to pay most times is so insignificant. From my little knowledge of specifically, let me not talk of other agencies, specifically what I have seen on television, what I have read out, is that the Mass Literacy Commission do not just educate these adults. They give them take-off packs. Have you gone to school that they give you take-off pack before? You can only find it in that commission. They educate their people and they give them take-off pack. So if you withdraw funding from such agency, it means that you are even going to increase the level of poverty within the system. And if we have out of misgovernance in a few years became the poverty capital of the world with funding of this mass literacy, and then you are now withdrawing its funding, where are we heading to? And that is why we are confident that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will hit to this attention-drawing World Press Conference and all other ones that we are going to be engaging in. Advocacy is our job. As civil society, we will not deviate from our primary function of informing and educating society for a transformative function. And that is this is one of such functions. And we will continue to do it because we have confidence that democracy avails us the opportunity to engage government in a very, very diplomatic and intelligent way like we're presenting the issues now, except otherwise.